Welcome guys, this is part 2 of the Super Q&A. These are the videos in which I take questions from you guys on Patreon that are supporting me there, and you're pretty much guaranteed a response. We'll do a wide variety of topics, both personal and YouTube based, Guild Wars and non-Guild Wars, whatever else. If you missed part 1, you can feel free to click the link that's on the screen right now to check that. It was about 40 minutes, and here we've got another one. So I hope you enjoy, hope your question was answered, and if not, do not worry. You can click the link down below to submit for the new round we'll be doing very, very soon. But anyway, guys, let's jump in. Jaguar Kitty asks, after Rise of the Tomb Raider, are you already thinking of a non-Guild Wars game to play? And are you getting enough sleep? You seem to work very hard. I am getting enough sleep. In fact, I'm sleeping a ridiculous amount at the moment. I can't say that I'm overworking and, you know, not getting the shot I need. I tend to be a bit weird in that I'll get, I think, too little sleep for my body, and then randomly one week it'll be like, all right, it's catch-up time, and then I'll just sleep like mad constantly. It's probably not very healthy at all. But yes, after Rise of the Tomb Raider, I am thinking about another non-Guild Wars game to play. I've been set in stone on that for a long time, actually, and it's going to be Elder Scrolls. I'm actually going to play probably Arena first. I talked about it earlier, this idea of flitting from big game to big game to big game, quite soullessly. I've been looking for a long time for my intersection where I can play a big franchise, but where I have a genuine love for it, and I'm a real fan of it, and I'm an embedded fan already, and Elder Scrolls is that franchise. I've been a fan of the Elder Scrolls since Morrowind, which, again, I used to sit and watch my father play when I was a lot younger. And I'm really excited about doing a series of LPs from 1 all the way through to 5. Most people just bandwagon on, you know, Oblivion onwards. Well, I want to show the roots of the franchise. I want to do the whole thing, the whole hog, in time for whatever Elder Scrolls 6 is, when it's going to be. The remaster for Skyrim's coming out, so there'll be a little bit of hype around it and stuff. But yeah, so it's probably going to be Elder Scrolls, very, very, very likely. At least for now. Opinions may change. Next question is from Damon Rath, who says, any chance of getting non-Guild Wars 2 content on streams? You know, I was thinking about this, okay, because, again, I've mentioned him so much. There was a dev leaving a lot of comments on the Asura videos. You guys should check it out. He was the director. He was responsible for the founding of the studio that made Asura. He was one of the people in charge of the decision as to whether they were going to do a sequel or not. He was heavily ingrained in the development of that game. He left a really well-detailed, interesting comment on every episode of Asura. I get nostalgic thinking about my old Asura LP right now. And anyway, at the end, I was pointed by him, Stephen, to an emulator, like hack, that would actually run Asura, which means you could play Asura on your PC at potentially higher resolutions, clearer, make it look even better than it has before. I'm nostalgic about that game, but what's really interesting as well is I've been watching a lot of speedrun stuff on Twitch lately, which is why we did that stream talking about maybe speedrunning Guild Wars 2. And speedrunning games is really interesting to me right now. And I looked on Twitch. I don't think anyone has ever streamed Asura. There's no VODs, there's no videos, there's no streams, there's just nothing. And I kind of like the idea of, like, speedrunning it. I don't know when I'd have the space to do that, but it would be amazing, right? Like, get the emulator up and running and get in there and try and complete the game as fast as possible. It's one of those very big non-linear, well, it's a linear game, but you can sequence break the hell out of it. And there's a lot of interesting little bugs and things you can do, so I think it would be an interesting stream to do. It's just a question of time. I actually only just fixed up the panels and things beneath my Twitch stream, which had been referencing desires to play other games, you know, bring Matt on and do other games and stuff. It's just now that I only stream 3 days a week, on one of those is on Nightfall. It feels like a tight squeeze. Maybe we could do it after the Nightfall stream. Well, I'll see what people think when we talk about it. But yeah, maybe. Next question is from Amy G, who says, do we know where the Elder Dragons get their powers? Is it caused by magic, where they absorb, or are they born with some of them? I ask this in relation to the weakness that each dragon has. We found Morgemoth to be to attack him in his own domain, his mind. If his mind power came from the magic he absorbed, when the other Elder Dragons absorb that spectrum magic, do you think that they could take on that weakness too? For example, mechanically, we see the new destroyers and Ember Bay are susceptible to burn damage, while almost all others are immune to burn damage. Yeah, so that is a very, very, very good question. I was going to joke about this in a recent video that ArenaNet have written this in so that all the future Elder Dragons now have mindiness in them, and we can have a cop-out Elder Dragon fight again, right? Like, every time, all we have to do is go into the Elder Dragon's brains. Just go into a cool dreamscape that has no established stakes or real reality behind it, or understanding on the part of the player, and just fight an avatar of the dragon. We don't have to animate or do a big Shadow of the Colossus-style epic fight. No. We'll just do avatars of all the dragons in different dreamscapes, because, hey, they all have Morgemoth's mindy power. It's perfect, guys. The writing fits. Obviously, that's overly cynical. I don't think that they're going to go that route at all. But yeah, the idea that they're absorbing each other's capabilities, so they must be absorbing each other's weaknesses, I think is something they will play with. Where they originally get their powers from, like, was Zaitan always, as a creature, something more death inclined, and it's just that as he grew stronger, he became more and more powerful, and the things he could create became more powerful, or whether that deathiness only came as a result of him getting the magic in the first place is unclear, and something I'd like to see them go into as well. It's a very good question. I don't have an answer to it. MMO Inc. says, how do I feel about my current technical setup, my computer, my sound quality, and so forth? In the perfect world, what is my dream setup that would take what I do now to a whole other level? Oh man, that's a good question. I could talk about this for a long time. I'll try to limit myself. Okay, well, so first of all, I have a second PC, which I use to render stuff. Cannot recommend it enough. It is so useful. Combine it with some software like AnyDesk, or just even, hell, the Windows Remote Desktop. I currently use FreeSync to synchronize my hard drives to an NAS as well, like a shared storage. And it can work wonders. It is so wonderful. My dream setup, I suppose, would be that I wouldn't have that second PC just be this old thing that I've had lying around, but I'd actually soup it up. So I render through Vegas, which only just recently started getting supported again, and even at that, the new company that owns the software doesn't really seem to be doing that much with it just yet. But essentially what this means is the best hardware to run Vegas on is quite well defined, and it's actually quite old stuff too. Like, it's very specific ATI card, it's very specific CPU, but like, you'd want a CPU with as many cores as possible. Like, you'd get a 6-core hyper-threaded CPU specifically for that render box. Speed the times up so much more. Even adding like a third PC as well, like one that's not even on this network here, would be really nice. I would like backups that aren't all in the exact same area of the exact same room, so that if there was a fire, I would still have all of my project presets. I'd still have everything that I've been slowly building and working on for so long. I would be absolutely devastated. It would take me months and months and months to get back to where I am if I lost all of the data on my hard drives, all of my presets and stuff, and I just don't really have very good backup. So that's another thing that I'd really like. One of the biggest things that I would love is a laptop. I don't have a laptop. I've never owned a laptop. I've never really been interested in having a laptop, but having a laptop just for next to me on the PC that allows me to move stuff like Discord and Skype and TeamSpeak and anything else that has overlays and sound effects and annoying little things like that off of my main recording PC would be wonderful. Not only does it free up a little bit of, resources on the main PC, but it stops weird little issues that constantly arise where, oh, whoops, I forgot to set myself to do not disturb on Skype, and now it's made a little pop-up noise, and I can't permanently be on do not disturb because my phone turns me back onto, changes my status, and there's no way for me to change, and, little annoying stuff like that. Thinking about while you're streaming, right? Like, it would be so nice to just have a laptop next to you so that you could type away in stream chat without having to alt-tab or anything like that, or control even OBS remotely through that laptop as it syncs over to your main PC, which is also something that you can do. So that's another thing I'd like. There's other little basic things I'd like as well, like the windshield I use for my mic broke a while back, and I've basically got it duct taped together. My audio quality I'm still not happy with, but I have no idea how to get it to where I want it to be. I think what I want is impossible because my voice doesn't actually work the way that I want it to. It would take actual voice training, and people would be like, WoodenPotatoes, you're starting to sound weird, which would be odd. Maybe a new channel strip would be pretty cool. Another thing that I'd love is bigger NAS and faster NAS, but then the other stuff isn't really hardware. Like, my dream setup right now isn't really hardware. My dream setup is finding someone who's really good at creating batch files or auto hotkey scripts and stuff like that, who can automate all the really mundane, obnoxious little things that I do every day. So for example, every video that I make, I have to export 2 different versions of it, one that's audio only and one's at the full quality. Then I have to navigate to the specific area of the Google Drive for the audio only one and throw that up. Then I have to navigate to the specific area of the Google Drive for the full actual video version for people who are the top tier on Patreon and upload that. Then I can go to YouTube, then I can import into YouTube, then I can start running on that stuff. That doesn't take a lot of time, but it's fiddly and annoying. It's like, it's just the same thing every time. It'd be really nice to be able to highlight a file and then just run a quick little script and it just syncs it to where I want it to go and I'm done. Like, just little hassle things like that would be so handy to get rid of and eliminate, and that's really where a lot of my focus is right now. That's where I'm trying to cut back and try and improve things as much as possible. Some of my other areas of improvement are sort of with me rather than with my setup. So for example, I know for a fact I could edit way faster, way more professionally, and way more respectably if I learned to just use the keyboard to edit instead of the mouse. Most people on YouTube, we're amateurs, we're hobbyists that eventually maybe roll it into something better. The professionals will use their keyboards to edit, and that's about it. And you can see, if you watch tutorials, whether you're using Premiere, whether you're using Vegas, whatever it is, you will see these people are so much more efficient. They get the job done so much more comfortably, but it's a very alien way of controlling the software for me, and it takes time to learn. So that's one thing that I'd like to do. I'd like to learn how to touch type better. There's a thing about speed reading as well. There's this thing online, guys, called Spreeder, and it's this fantastic thing that trains your eyes and your brain to be able to read text so much quicker. And if I really think about my life, right, I spend a lot of time reading text. What am I doing right now? I'm reading the text of your comments. Obviously, I have to read them out loud, so I can't go particularly fast here. But I read text that people leave on YouTube comments. It's reading emails. It's reading forum posts. It's reading update information. It's communicating. It's text. There's all these little things about me as a person. If I improved them, I could get way more efficient. And so these are the things that excite me. These are the things that I'm interested in improving. It's not always just about throwing money at problems and getting more souped up tech. In fact, very rarely is that the answer. And I would try not to get suckered in. Not saying that you specifically are, but that's advice I know a lot of people that should have taken a long time ago. But yeah, moving on, we got Cuman Hawk, who says, another question, WP. In Guild Wars 1, with each expansion, we got different looks. Alolan humans, factions humans, all look different from Crayon humans. Do you think in the next expansion we might get new looks for each of the races for character creation? See, this kind of question upsets me because it just reminds me of another shortcoming of Heart of Thorns. I feel like they already had the opportunity to do that and they didn't, and so now it throws doubt to the rest. If they were doing this format where like you've got a bit more of a slanted expansion in each race's favour, so Sylvari first, potentially Asura second, if we're actually going with Primordus, or if it's another one of the dragons, another one of the races. If we get that slanting, what ArenaNet could have done is with that expansion, given a bunch more Sylvari faces and bodies and you know, hairs and whatever in association with that, you know, more Mordrum-y looking style characters, or, you know, so that they feel like there's this new distinct branch of Sylvari that you can play with that expansion. These are the kind of scope things that you really see Heart of Thorns missed, and that's where a lot of the soul is such a terrible word, but that's where a lot of the meat of an expansion comes from to me. A ton new emotes for Sylvari characters, or for everyone, or whatever. There's a lot of systems in the game that could have been developed on and stuck with that Sylvari slant. And then, yeah, that would be so cool, right? If we ever get a Char-themed one, we get a bunch new character creation options for an Ash Legion-themed Char that we might like to play, and so on. But because they missed it with Heart of Thorns, I'm doubtful now that they'll do it for other ones. Because they added random emotes in a Living World update instead of with expansions, I'm a little bit doubtful there. Though, to counter myself a little on that point, the new emotes they added with Living World weren't really new animations at all. They were just hooking up other things in kind of a smart way. So maybe they will do new animations with future expansions. Maybe Heart of Thorns is just an outlier. Maybe Heart of Thorns was just this rushed thing, this unfortunate thing that was lacking the scope that it deserved. And the new expansion has had so much more development time on it and so much more pre-planning and so much more of a ground level. They don't have to work on masteries. They don't have to work on elite specializations or any of this other crap. Maybe because of all those reasons, this next expansion we get will have all these quality features and extra bonuses that Heart of Thorns lacked and will really be there. I would love to see it, but I don't know right now. It would be cool. Next question is from Alil Slaw, who says, "Hey WP, I've been thinking of making a twin character of one of my Asuras on an alt account lately, and I started to wonder what would actually be lore friendly, and just about Asuran families in general. The wiki states that the Asura give birth in the same number as humans, the same manner as humans, to which would kind of maybe suggest yes, however blanket statement that is. But is there any precedent for that in game and or lore in general? Is there any precedent of actual siblings at all? Because by the description of half of Asuran relationships, more similar to research partnerships, it would suggest that it's more half brothers and half sisters, if anything else. Probably unique of their culture referring to those. Anyway, this question's all over the place. Thoughts? P.S. The risk of inbreeding. Oh god. Well, you've got the school in Metrica Province. I'm trying desperately to think of a brother and sister story arc with Asuran characters. And I can't think of any right now. I'm sure there are. This is just me blanking. I'm sure there are brother and sister Asura out there. I would suggest you go to the school in Metrica Province, have a look at some of the progeny. You'd be surprised how much amazing small little quips and details there are in places like Ratasum in the cities if you just wander around them long enough and just speak to the NPCs, go to the docks, go to the places you don't usually explore and visit, and communicate with them a bit more. But yeah, they are a little bit lacking there. In terms of relationships and stuff, there was a bit in Guild Wars 1 with the Asura trying to like get with one another, and the guy was trying to make his ears look bigger than they actually were. And there have been little jokes in Guild Wars 2 as well. But you're right, maybe they are a little bit thin on the ground there. Maybe that's something to embellish on with an Asura-themed expansion. Another question from Luke Lim, who says, "Hey WP, as you know, some or a lot of your viewers enjoy your content and cite it as one of the few things that keep them playing Guild Wars 2. Others purely watch your videos as they're only a source of any Guild Wars 2. What characteristic of your channel do you think it is that attracts so much viewers to you in this way?" So yeah, I do fully appreciate that. I think that I have a lot of people who don't play Guild Wars. They just watch the videos to keep in touch with the community. You know, I sometimes get criticized, well, quite often get criticized for making content about, you know, patch notes or discussions people have already had on the forums or on Reddit, and they're like, "Oh, he just copied what they're saying there." It's never really me just copying that. It's a discussion I'm enthused about and a discussion I'm interested in having just as much as anyone else. And the format that I do that on is videos and doesn't go any further. I have just as much right to talk about these things as other people do. But there is another element to that, which is I do understand I have a lot of people who aren't on the forums, who aren't on Reddit, who haven't had those discussions already, who haven't seen those patch notes already. And these people kind of deserve to be kept in the loop. And I think it's because I've understood that for a long time now, that those people are kept in the loop, and then they appreciate that and they stick about. I would say maybe the most defining thing that has helped is if you can be regular. If you're regular as possible, and I know that sounds so easy to say, and there are a lot of people who are very regular and then they don't get that following, and that's really just because YouTube's so hard to break into. But if you're regular about it, if people can look at the WoodenPotatoes channel and see with some confidence that when the next Living World update comes out, he'll be there with a bunch more videos discussing the story, summing the story up, talking about lore speculation for future things, talking about the features that went in, covering the new maps. If they can have even a little bit of confidence that I will do that, then they'll hang about, right? And they might not click videos like Guild Wars 2 Launch Buddy, but when the next big patch comes out, then they're back again. And I think that that's really the main thing. If people have confidence that you have been regularly doing it, then they'll stick about. And I'm not even that regular a lot of the time. I was planning on covering all the current events as they came out, and that fell by the wayside until I had to do a massive sum up a little bit later. So don't let me pretend that I'm perfect somehow, because I'm certainly not. Next question, Kevin Hefner. Kevin says, "Hey WP, do you think there is any connection between the human gods and the Elder Dragons? As there only seems to be one type of magic in Tyria, what makes the gods different from the dragons? Could it be because some higher power created the Elder Dragons to fulfill this role magic sponge, explaining why they only consume with no other goals or motives, while the gods are beings of free will? Do the gods leaving have anything to do with the awakening of the Elder Dragons?" I think there is very likely to be a connection there, Kevin. What you've just asked me is probably my most asked lore question ever by like several magnitudes. Everyone always asks this question. It really excites people, and what's so fun about this line of thinking when you really dive into it is a lot of the things don't quite match up, and there's a lot of odds and ends and a lot of weird, mysterious, incomprehensible things, and that's what makes gods cool, right? That they're these weird enigmatic entities that we try to reason away with logic, and then somehow these theories that look sound on paper suddenly aren't working. I really like this element of the story. I'm very curious to see how ArenaNet deal with it. I did have the theory recently that the Elder Dragons are being consumed by madness and a lust for magic because of what was revealed in Bloodstone Fen. But yeah, the only difference is that the gods aren't, for whatever reason. And why that could be, who knows? But I think that would be a really exciting angle to go down. And mostly, I think it's a bit of a waiting game for us at the moment to see whether there really is a relationship. Moving on, we got Binaged, who says, "Hey WP, I'm sure you've answered this before, but in lore, when it says that the gods brought humans to Tyria, is the writer referring to the planet, the continent, or both? Are there any other races who were brought to Tyria, the planet, and if so, who brought them? Also, when doing the jump through the Rift event, I found my character changed into an anomaly at one point. Could this explain the nature of the anomalies? That they are mortals whose physical form was lost after contact with a rift?" Yeah, either contact with a rift, or it's something to do with the crazy amount of magic right now and being imbued with too much magic, and all that magic is flowing around that rift, which is what's caused it in the first place. The second question you've asked there, I think we're rapidly speeding an answer to. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if next Tuesday we get another current events patch where they take that further, and we maybe get a continuation of the burden of choice or something. But so, on the topic of the humans being brought there, this is sort of an unreliable narrator thing, and it is one of the most interesting elements of the lore, because a lot of the times when the devs talk about it, they talk about it in kind of a very hazy way, like, do we actually trust this information? And again, some of the lines don't add up here, because in Guild Wars 2, they suggest that the gods first brought the humans, and first landed on Tyria, I believe, and first brought them at Or, while Guild Wars 1 lore contradicts this and actually suggests that the humans were first on Cantha, then they spread north from there to Alona, and then they spread from Alona to Kryta, and then they spread around and spread around and spread around. And they weren't first at Cantha either, they were first from even below south of Cantha. So we actually have these very contradictory origin points for the humans, someplace really far south, and the idea is that humans just migrated up from some distant continent maybe that we've never seen off the edges of the map, or that the humans were brought directly to Or and so forth by the gods. So there are these weird contradictions, the timelines don't quite work. They've always said though, when the writing mentions, hey, the humans may have been brought here from somewhere else in the universe, it's always they may have been. It's never been a definitive, oh, a god gave us a cutscene where they said, hello, I brought you here. It's always been like, what is the true question here? Very similar to the fall of Jotun's society, that we've got like 3 different answers to that question now from different sources in-game, different perspectives. And I love it when the devs go into that. I don't know whether we'll get a complete answer on that one, ever maybe. So I realise I've only answered your question in kind of a roundabout way. Are they referring to Tyria the continent or Tyria the planet? It depends on which area you're looking at when they're talking about where humans first came from. I guess just go with Tyria the planet. But if it is this belief that they started in Or, then it's the planet and the continent at the same time. I guess what I'm trying to say is because we don't have a very well-established baseline, it's hard to pinpoint which one of the two it is. So maybe just go with the planet for safety. Though I must admit, I'm a little bit hazy on some of that human introductory stuff. I need to refresh. So many years covering the franchise, a lot of stuff starts to slip. Niels Sinage says, WP, do you and Boots plan on doing more bad builds? I think it comes down to inspiration for Boots on when we run another season of that, if we do another season. For what it's worth, I really like the format that that show fell into, where it's basically like season by season. I've never done that on my own channel, but I really like it. Like, everybody understands there's some off time and it might come back at some point in the future. We do each class and then move on. I have very little to do, though, with designing the builds. Sometimes Boots has to spend a lot of money just to get the build to a functioning place. I think we would both love to do more, and I talk with Boots all the time, and we're like, oh man, we want to do videos together, we want to do videos together, we want to do videos together, but we just don't have a very fun concept. You might remember a while ago we did that mini game where we were dying in Gendaran fields, and the first person to get res got the prize, kind of thing. Like, we're trying to find a nice concept we can do together that we're both enthused by, that is has more potential for videos than just like bad builds, which get exhausted quite quickly. You know, we did quite a few different mini games over the years. So we do want to do more. Whether it's more bad builds, we don't know. We are desperate for inspiration though, so drop it in the comments if you guys want to see more of me and Boots. I want it to be him on my channel more, as well as just me constantly being on his. Let's get a series going where he's appearing on WoodenPotatoes a lot. That would do a lot for him too, because more people would see him in that place, and then they'd go off and sub to him. All right, moving on, we got Lone Vaults. Lone Vault says, what are your initial feelings about Amazon's New World in regards to my channel? With the success of my video, it seems there is potential for you to expand to the IP with real growth and minimal backlash. I know, it's crazy, isn't it? It is crazy. To put this in perspective, guys, usually if I do a non-Guild Wars video, like a 10th of you will watch it. A 10th, barely that sometimes. You know, I've sort of got to the point where I'm getting about 30k consistent-ish on Guild Wars 2 videos at the moment, but you know, if it's a Tomb Raider video, I'll barely scratch 2k, sometimes 3k. Over time, eventually it will push to maybe 5 or something. Very, very, very low numbers on non-Guild Wars based stuff, and I'm sure that's because I'm quite infrequent with it. But this is what I was talking about earlier with another question. People want to see me do other MMOs. The thing that sort of worries me a little bit in the future, and I'm going to do a dedicated video talking about this. I think a lot of people are aware. I've mentioned it a few times now. It turns out a lot of the ArenaNet developers aren't making New World. So I think people are interested in me covering New World because it's the ANET devs as well. And like, that's important. That's a big part of it. That's why there's enthusiasm from my audience. But it turns out it's not really them. The ArenaNet guys are working on Crucible, which was the second of the 3 games, which I am also very interested in as a concept, but is not an MMO. So I don't know how whether the transition will be as beautiful and neatly parceled and packaged as it looked at first. Is not quite right. I don't think it will be. I think when I drop the news, oh hey, yeah guys, actually New World's being made by like a lot of ex-WoW devs and stuff, I think at that point a lot of people will go, oh screw this then. But besides all of that, I am excited. I got filled with a real excitement when I was watching the Amazon thing. It is the start of a new franchise, the start of a new IP, being funded by someone with ridiculous amounts of cash and potential, in theory. So I like that idea, and I like the themes of it as well, this idea of the colonization of the Americas and the tone and how dark a lot of that looks. We obviously have very, 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 very little information. For those of you who also want to be on the ground floor with it, there is a subreddit for New World already. I've been doing a little bit of discussion on there. There's only a couple of people hanging around. And I still stand by what I said. I think what we'll see is Breakaway first, then I think we'll see Crucible after that, and maybe New World at the end of the chain much later on, which is good for me because I can talk a little bit about Breakaway. People aren't going to be interested in me talking about Breakaway too much though. I can talk a lot about Crucible. I think Crucible looks cool, and obviously we have a lot of the ArenaNet devs that are there, so Crucible will be great. And then, hopefully, that's a nice transition into New World as well. I'm excited, very excited. It's also kind of cool and surprising to see that you, Lone Vault, are thinking about the exact same stuff that I am and have sort of recognized a very cool opportunity on the horizon. And I will try to take advantage of it. Moving on, we got Para Revolutions, who says, you mentioned in your Crayon Law series on stream, is there any chance a return of it? That Dark Souls video has some impressive art in it, but I guess it really is a lot of work to make these. Cheers. All right, Crayon Law wasn't necessarily a lot of work. Crayon Law, you guys might have noticed recently, I've got a lot of enthusiasm for automation and making improvements, but improvements that are scalable. And what I mean by that is like, it's something you set up once, and then once it's set up for the once you've built the batch file, once you've paid someone to make the batch file or whatever, it's this solid thing that just keeps giving and giving and giving and giving and giving. Once you've set up the good intro, once you've set up the good music playlists, once you've set up the good ways of, having these silly little characters on your thumbnails, which is one of the more recent things I'm playing with. Once you've set them up, they just keep giving and giving and giving without increasing the workload too much. I'm very enthusiastic about that these days. I've rambled about it enough, all right? Well, my first real exploration into that style of production was Crayon Law. What I wanted from Crayon Law was something that was true to me, something big about lore, about story, about video games, but also was ingrained in something I'd seen was very successful on my channel already. That was the Guild Wars lore series before that came out. And that also, though, would be easy to produce. The thing with the lore series was, as successful as it was a nightmare to produce, really difficult. While Crayon Law was supposed to be the opposite of that. Crayon Law, I had set up tons of different presets. This was my first time dabbling in this stuff. For Photoshop, you can set up like little scripts in Photoshop that run jobs for you. So I would basically source screenshots and things online through Google, crop them, blow them up, and apply filters and things to them, split them into separate layers, drop them into my editing software. These separate layers would already have different track motion for idle animations and movement on them, and set up all the pan crops that I need, and voila, you would bunch them together, get a couple of automatic transitions running in through there, and that was the visuals done. So if you're very impressed by the visuals on that video, that was a lot of prep, and then I started rolling them out. I had somebody helping me with the scripts, the audio side, so he'd do the scripts, I'd read them out. They were basically like sum-ups from the wiki side of things, but I don't know, I think that last part was maybe a mistake. I think probably I have to be writing the scripts as well, not necessarily because the quality of the scripts was worse than what I could have made or anything like that, but just because I think that it suddenly becomes a bit soulless if the main content of the video, the audio track, the commentary track, isn't actually produced or vetted too heavily by you. I mean, I would make tweaks to it, but it felt kind of soulless after that, and that series never really caught on enough. So yeah, it ended up falling by the wayside. But the visuals, that kind of stuff, with enough pre-planning, you can actually churn out pretty comfortably, pretty quickly. And that was one of my first big forays into that kind of automation style of productivity. All right, moving on. We've got Adrian G, who says, why do you think ArenaNet didn't add new stuff in the Halloween event this year? And most of all, didn't make a cool reward for one of the hardest jumping puzzles in the game? I'm really not on the bandwagon of this is the worst Halloween ever and the QQ. I'm sorry, I'm just not. To me, Halloween is a lot of content. I'm mostly annoyed by the removing of content and the not looking into bringing it back. The back pieces, the odd scavenger hunts associated with them, the odd meta events, Reaper's Rumble, Lunatic Inquisition, the bloody Prince stuff. I am, of course, sad that the story's not getting pushed further as well, because the Halloween story getting pushed further was always a good thing. But, I'm not too sad, because it is a big festival. There is a lot going on, and they did add new rewards. They've added quite a lot of cool, prestigious new rewards. They've added good syncs for candy corn. I've been playing, as I say, a lot with the new decorations that they added for Halloween, and you guys could be too. Don't think, oh, this is something somehow gated off from you. It is a part of the experience. So yeah, I'm not that salty about Halloween. I'm disappointed, obviously, that it's not been pushed further, and I would like to see it get pushed further in future years, but there's a huge base of stuff there. At the end of the day, compare a Guild Wars 2 festival to other festivals on the MMO market, and we're still way ahead of the rest of them. I don't think that it warrants too much more discussion than expressing we're a bit disappointed and moving on. Certainly not to the level that it got. As for the clock tower, I at first thought it wasn't very rewarding, but people mentioned in my comments that if you're good at it, that's some of the best farm you can get in all of Halloween. So it may not have an exclusive reward, but it can earn you a ton of money, and that makes it, that's valuable incentive, right, for the people who are good at it. It's also probably, in my opinion, not the hardest jumping puzzle in the game. So yeah. Next question, Nathaniel Green. Says, I've heard many streamers share some interesting stories about how their families have viewed their current profession or method at making a living from making content. How has your family viewed your current job as a streamer and a content creator? Do they understand what you do? Have they been supportive of your choice to do this? Do they ever watch any of your stuff? Yeah, the funny thing is, no one takes it seriously until all of a sudden when either you've started earning money from it or something like quite specific happens. So my family's always been very supportive, very supportive. When I originally decided to try this around the launch of Guild Wars 2, the channel was blowing up big time just because of the pre-launch hype. It was blowing up big time. I thought there was an opportunity that I could take advantage of and do a lot more stuff if I quit my job, which I actually don't think is true anymore. I actually was able to push out a lot of content even while working full-time. And I think most people should try to do things that way. The structure of a full-time job is a very, very handy thing. If you can get in the rhythm of work for your 9 hours, come home, spend the next 2.5 to 3 on a video every day, if you've got the dedication for that, if you can actually handle that, you can juggle both. I seriously do think you can juggle both. What happened with me was I thought, oh, there's a big opportunity. I'll quit my job. I'll focus on it a lot. And then it was kind of very hard to keep the right perspective. Maybe that's a whole different story. Basically, when I quit my job, I remembered sitting in the garden. It was summer. We were having a barbecue or something, and I started talking about, you know, where I was working was a really good career, had really good prospects and benefits, and I was, you know, I would be a very different person right now, let me tell you that, if I had pursued that job and maintained that career. And I remember sitting in the garden thinking, should I torpedo this? Should I quit it? Should I just go for this YouTube thing instead? And I remember specifically a guy I was working with. I hadn't told anyone at work why I'd quit, but one of the guys I was working with, who'd been training me in some Java stuff at the time, he kind of offhandedly said to me, oh, you're not quitting to join Machinima, are you? Or something like that. It was very astute of him because I hadn't really given him any clues that I'd been doing anything to do with YouTube. And I was like, oh, no. But that stuck with me. I was like, oh, God, I'm basically doing something quite similar. I'm not going to Machinima. I'm doing something quite similar. And I was really scared about it. But I was having this barbecue and I remember talking to my mum about it seriously for the first time. And there hadn't been any money or anything really there. She wouldn't understand it. No one really gets the idea of YouTubing in the gaming space and actually earning a living from it, right? Because it is such a crazy idea. But she said, look, I don't understand it. You're promising me that there are prospects there and you're telling me that it might make you happy, so maybe you should quit. And she kind of gave me that push, that encouragement that I needed. If she hadn't said that, I probably wouldn't have quit in the way that I did. I probably wouldn't be sitting here. I probably would have gone into something completely different. So it was sort of her just blind trust in my statements that it might become something that led to this here. And that's the kind of support that I've always had. There were 2 other really big moments where my family seemed to think I was some kind of superstar out of nowhere. One of them was the launch of Heart of Thorns, where Matt and I got invited to do the post show on the stream. I'd offhandedly mentioned it. They said they wanted to watch it. And that was one of the first streams I ever really did. We rolled in on a 100,000 people audience that even ended up sticking at about 60,000 people. It was a huge stream. And obviously other streamers can pull those kinds of views, and events can get way higher than that all over the place. And I had a lot of fun doing it, but they all seemed to think it was this ridiculous thing. We did a joke on that stream where I teased that I was going to reveal my face, and then we did like the first ever potato cam. You guys might remember that. And chat freaked out. Everyone was like going mental over it. And anyway, my family were like enthusiastically watching this stream. It was so odd to me that they'd got so into it. And they were all astounded by how desperately everybody seemed to want to see what I look like. So that was one big moment in that stream. And the other big moment was when Suck at Love made that WP anthem for me. And I did a video on it, and I'd shared that, and that really did the rounds in my personal life. Everyone was like, oh, look at how amazing this is. And somehow, just because there was this song that had been made, this somehow meant I had made it. Those are really the big standouts, but generally they've been supportive. My brothers have always said, oh, it looks like you've got a really, really great life, even if it is unstable or whatever. And things have generally been really good in that department. I've never had anyone put me down, and I think if you've got a family that has been putting you down, that's a really sad thing, no matter what you're trying to do, whether it's this or whatever other crazy ambition you might have. You need to have someone you can have that conversation at a barbecue with, right? Who can give you that push. All right, moving on. Next question is from Christopher, who says, given the amount of account-bound features and items in Guild Wars 2, do you think that players should begin to go away from the old notion of having a main? I know in other game communities, the philosophy of having a main is frowned upon, as you should be able to adapt to the content and change characters. In Guild Wars 2, it is feeling more and more that you can't just play one class. In SPVP, you probably should adapt to the opposing team. In raids, team comp per boss is a necessity. In story instances, some classes feel to have a greater advantage with dealing with the content. Might even be able to say a certain open world content could warrant swapping too. Oh, and this is all coming from a very monogamous gamer. Since launch date 4 years ago, 98% of my playtime has been on my Mesmer. Well, I think that, yeah, Guild Wars 2 has been going away from this idea of having a main. The more account-bound stuff that it adds, the easier that leveling it makes, the easier that it makes getting elite specializations. Of course, having a main is less and less important. Guild Wars 2 is a very easy game to get lots and lots of ults. I personally am of the opinion that this is actually detrimental to the game. I don't like all of this account binding. I like that kind of MMO perspective of having a main, of the flavor of saying, hey, I play Guild Wars 2, and I'm an Asuran Elementalist, I'm a Norn Warrior. And then people, having that real sense of identity with the specific toon, I think is a very, very, very strong thing. And we sort of, if you're a veteran player, you probably don't have that identity in Guild Wars 2 anymore. Or if you do and you're a veteran player, yeah, it's kind of questionable how good you are at the game. If all you've done is play 98% of Mesmer, you know, people are going to start frowning at you for that because the game is so encouraging of playing alts now. It's kind of something people expect of you. I think players have been going away from the notion of having a main in Guild Wars 2, probably more in this MMO than most. But yeah, I think it's actually been to the detriment of the game. Maybe it's just a silly little flavor idea that I need to get over, but I have always liked this perspective of having your main and it being important. I've talked before about this idea of having PvE leagues go in, and actually one concept I love about the idea of PvE leagues is you could force people to have one character in that league, and that's it. So for that league, you have that identity with that character. And after the league's over, it rolls back into your regular account and you can do whatever. But, you know, for this league, you have to be one race and one profession, and that's it. And if you want to change, you've got to get rid of the current one you've got and swap and change. I think that'd be really cool. But I know some people would disagree. A lot of people in our community love all of the account binding and hate character binding. I'm not really in that corner. I appreciate that's a subjective thing. Next question is from Michael Tone. We're getting near the end now, guys, as well. He says, simple question, probably not so simple to answer. What is your most and your least favorite thing about Guild Wars 2? Oh, I hate questions like this. Most and least favorite. Picking a favorite is so sucky, though. How can you compare apples to oranges to pears to grapes to bananas to mangoes, which is the variety that an MMO encompasses? I don't know what it says about me, but I can probably answer the thing I hate most easier, and that's the quality of the personal story at launch, and to an extent, the greater game as a whole, because of my love for the universe and my passion for it and how amazing I think it can be, and how close it is to being amazing, but then it just falls so short. I think that's probably my most hated thing, the lack of living up to what it could have been in terms of its story delivery at the core of the game. As for my favorite thing, maybe it's... Oh, this is a really lame answer, but hey, we'll go with it because we can't be messing about with this all day. Maybe like the business model that they've ran with. It's one of those things you get used to and you stop thinking about. But the fact we've got a buy-to-play MMO that I think is, generally speaking, very, very, very good at keeping away from pay-to-win. Look at how many MMOs come out and they get greedy and they go pay to win every single time. Guild Wars never did that. They really stuck to their guns. The fact that this is an MMO that doesn't have any downtime for what it is, the fact that they so rarely ask for more money from you, say with expansions, they've done it once, and then looking at the amount of content that they actually throw in there. Yes, there's obviously a lot of things I would change about the gem store and about the way that things work with Guild Wars 2, but I think that is a very, very strong core that the rest of the game spins out from and has enabled it to be as successful as it has for this many years. So maybe that, God, that's a horrible thing to say that's my favorite, but I think it's up there. Another question from Inks, who says, I wanted to throw another one in here. Can we see an update video on the apartment for those who get videos here on Patreon? I know we've talked about a new fish tank, wall posters, and so forth. Well, the thing is, where I live, it's basically like one room. I've got a kitchen, which won't be interesting for you to see. I've got a hall, which is not different at all in the slide. The hall is less interesting than it was on that previous video because it's not got a rug in it anymore. I have a toilet, which is, if anything, just a bit cleaner than the last time you saw it. A bedroom, well, maybe the bedroom might be slightly interesting to look at. But I got this one room. There's one room you could see, which I could probably sum up in 4 pictures because it's so small of each corner. Maybe I'll do a little video on it at some point. I have been meaning to do another exclusive vlog. There's been a lot of other little topics I wanted to talk about. All right, Inks, I will look into it. I'll add it on my list in Wonderlist. Moving on, we got Kane in, who says, hey, if you were given complete control of the story of Guild Wars 2, what would I do with that power? Where would I take you first? How would I like to see it end? Honestly, I think I would take it in a lot of the directions that they do seem to be. Some of this leaked stuff seems to suggest that we might be doing things I'd like to do. We've gone back to the Fire Island chain. I think we might get answers about Sahothin and stuff soon. It's such a big story though, and there's so many different places to go. You've kind of got to give each one time. If I got complete control over the story, there's no way I'd say, all right, next patch we're going to Cantha, for example. I would spend a long time probably finishing up Ritlock's story and finishing up what's going on with Dragon's Watch and finishing off this current dragon activity that they've set up. I do think I'd take us to the Wizard's Tower, probably in a raid form. I do think I'd end up taking us to Cantha, and it would be like a crazy futuristic city, and they would establish that the Wardens of the Echoveld Forest had some connection. I do think I'd take us back to the Realms of the Gods. I do think I'd take us to some of the big, deep questions, like maybe the origin point of the humans. I'd expand us across all the different areas of the map that we've wanted to go for ages. The Isles of Janthir, that big, beautiful delta, the Scavenger's Causeway. I probably would do Cogs of War. I would reintroduce the war between the humans and the child. I'd basically spiral my way through the dragons and then establish interracial conflicts again and push from there. I actually think that once the dragons are dead, that might be a nice good stopping point to just end this and then go to Guild Wars 3, which I find myself astounded to say because it seems like such a bizarre, stupid idea to kill the MMO and then move forward to another one. But it's such like a big stop, right? Like when we finish the Elder Dragons, that's like the definition of what Guild Wars 2 is all about. The logo for the game is a dragon for a very good reason. So once that story's over, it almost feels like, all right, it's time to end Guild Wars 2. Let's move on to the third one. But I would have us visiting other areas in the Mists. Not in like a cop-out-y way, like I consider the Fractals or World vs. World and stuff to be, but in terms of, oh, hey, you are genuinely in another realm that actually means something. Hey, check it out. This is Dwayna's paradise and so forth. In all honesty, I've increasingly found recently I wouldn't want complete creative control of Guild Wars 2, specifically because of how it is as an MMO and it's ingrained to the dragon stuff. What I would love complete creative control of is another game that's maybe not an MMO, maybe is back to a CORPG, a Path of Exile, Diablo 3 style, Guild Wars 1 true mechanical successor storyline that, you know, has got a nice mix of Divinity, Original Sin in there, and some of these cool experiences, and have a new game, and then tell your story in that game instead, and maybe that's what's beyond the dragons, or maybe that's way off in the past, or whatever. That I would friggin' adore, but, yeah, maybe that's not really what you're asking. I'd take us beyond the Dominion of Winds. Come on, this is all low-hanging fruit. This is all easy stuff. Those are all the things I'd do. I'm sorry I'm not going on longer with this. I could probably talk for an hour and a half on it, but I've already been talking an hour and a half in this recording session with everyone else's questions, so hopefully there's a little something in there. And so the final question is from Dejiza again, who says, another thing I was wondering about were the Obsidian Destroyers. Is there any lore on them I'm missing, and what might they do with them in the current stories? First time I died in Gamewood to those absolute monsters, and to have them become a standard enemy would be amazing. Sweet, sweet revenge. Yeah, so the Obsidian Destroyers, if people don't know, these are the creatures you find behind one of the Asura gates associated with an event and a heart in Metrica Province. They're kind of a mechanic to kick you out of an area of the map where they just get these really beefy, almost invincible, super dangerous mobs that you can kill if you bring a big enough Zerg. We did that on a stream a little while ago. Whether they come back with the Primordus arc, I think they should. It's just a matter of if ArenaNet remembers that they put them in the damn game, right? Like, there's definitely a reason to see them come back. I don't think there is any specific lore on them, though. They're just deadly mobs that they put in as a function. Maybe they can add more lore, and I think that they would be very appropriate to see them come back. I'd be excited to see them come back, but there's every bit of chance that they won't, because the devs just won't have remembered. And, well, there you go, guys. That is the Super Q&A. We'll split this one in two, as I'm sure you already were aware. This is part 2. Thanks very much for watching. Hope you all enjoyed. I will be hosting another one of these soon, so this is a bit of a shameless plug for Patreon. If you've listened to this, if you've enjoyed this, if you maybe want to get a question on there, or you just want to support what I do and how I've been doing it, there's a link to Patreon in just a couple of seconds at the end of this video, and there's another one in the description. If you want to click it, see if you want to support me in any way, that would be absolutely wonderful. But for everyone else, I really hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you got a satisfying response to one of your questions, and very shortly we will run another one of these soon, so keep an eye out on the Patreon page for submissions on the next round. Thanks, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Have a wonderful evening. I wish you all the best, and I will see you next time. About 2 episodes, we're going to be looking at the quests that were added to the Halloween event in 2010. So the last couple of episodes were 2009. Now we're looking at what was added last year, which is in fact the stuff that was added to the game. It was the last new content I'd played just before I started the Let's Play in the very first place. In fact, you remember me actually saying a couple of episodes ago that, honestly, when I started this Let's Play, you can see me getting like Halloween drops from creatures in pre-searing, and basically I started the Let's Play, I think, the day after I'd played these quests. It's just kind of cool to think of that. So to start them, we're going to speak to this person here, the Countess of Hakewood. Okay, one thing I do want us to bear in mind is, obviously, we saw the 2009 quests last episode. These 2010 quests, these were added after the first chapter of Guild Wars Beyond, the War in Kryta. So there's going to be a tiny little bit of dialogue here that assumes that all the stuff that happens in War